me welcome you all tonight to this auspicious occasion as we gather to witness the launch of one great piece of work by one of our own, a son of the soil. And this piece of work is in form of a great book, and we are all here to witness its greatness. Our program will start shortly. Let me extend our sincere apologies for running behind schedule. We were trying to get a few things in place, and apologies for that. We will commence our program once our guest of honor gets into this hall, and that's going to be in a minute from now. And the program is quite brief this evening. We have a few speakers, and we have a few performances. After all the speakers and the performances, we are going to gather outside to continue with the celebration of this great work we are launching tonight. And as we do that, let me also make mention that we have a shelf with books outside there. So those of you that wish to get a copy tonight, please feel free to do so right at the foyer there. We have two different copies of this same book. One is with the hard cover and the other one is with a soft cover. The hardcover one is going at 35,000 kwacha, and the soft cover one is going at 25,000 kwacha. So all the payment arrangements will be made right at the selling point. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor is now here, and we will commence our program. May I request all those that are sitting at the back to kindly move forward so that we can fill the empty seats that are here. We would like to have this event as memorable as possible. So for the sake of the pictures and the videos, may I kindly request all those that are sitting at the back to move to the front seats so that we can fill the gaps. Thank you very much for your obedience. Our guest of honor, Right Honorable Catherine Gotani Hara MP, Speaker of the National Assembly. Honorable Vera Kamtukule, Deputy Minister of Labor. The Honorable Attorney General, Mr. Thabo Chakaka Nyirenda, Mr. Dokani Ngwira, Director of National Intelligence, Mike Antio, Vice President of the UDF, Ms. Habiba Osman, Executive Secretary of the Human Rights Commission, Brigadier Yetala, Commandant, Malawi Defense Force Staff College, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I would like to welcome you all tonight to this great and memorable event as we celebrate our own son who has made great strides and has achieved one of his many dreams. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we gather to celebrate some great work. We gather to celebrate some great intelligence. We gather to celebrate talent tonight. And this talent this great work, this intelligence, this wisdom is all summed up in this book that we are launching tonight, titled Surviving Anarchy. The book captures a number of critical issues, among which it actually captures the history, the challenges, and the prospects for regional integration in Southern Africa. I am not going to talk more about the book because there are people that have been designated for that. Allow me at this point to keep up with the time to invite a performance before we get to hear speeches tonight. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Nyamaligiti Ntiwatiwa, who is going to give us a poetry performance tonight. A round of applause, please, for Nyamaligiti.
Good evening. So, as is the ritual, I'm going to give you a piece that I wrote just this evening in commemoration for this great milestone by Wilson. And time permitting, I'll also give you a blast from the past, our own kind of anarchy that we had around about 2011. The first one is in Chichewa, and it has quite a banal title, so you excuse the title. Like I said, I just wrote it this evening. Nkhani za umphawi. Mpaka na kufika napo masirira andende. Loko ndikasambukire mufoya. Nabola chifu chidapo pajasi la mgayiwa wa mbwanda. Zinazo mpadedza. Ulemerero oyamba ndi nkhuto. Kumasirira odwala eti. Kudali nzikabula ku gulupu. Bola matenda osalenga nseru. Kuti chingongo chikalira. Kumaka uchecheta wa mati masiku anjala nkumata. Kumafika pomachita chiloli kusirira umasiye. Azankaliri awa tipindule ndi chisoni. Umphawi makolo ali moyo ungotozensa osalabadidwa. Ndiuzeni tidaphulanji mu ukapolo ozilamulira tokhawo. Dziko lonseli malondo ogulika kunjaku kungokhala umphawi omwewo. Kumachita ndota ndithu mpaka na ziphwenene. Kuti tsiku lina Malawi azavukamo mu chithaphwatha cha Ulanda. Ndi ndalama ya afuntha akunja ana oleredwera pa chilolo awo anapulukira muutsi wa ndudu zopichiriratuwa. Ungachenjeretu maka koma ukapita koyenda akakudziwa kuti umachokera kumpanje kuno. Nkhani zokufunsa zimachita ofinimpha. Ngati sakufunsa za ana amadona, ndeurango kufunsa walakatulire, kunyung'unya kwa umphawi, njala nthenda nsanje tuchitipa. Taonani ngakhale lero lino, potiona unyapala pa gulu la opinimbira mwa chitukuko. Malawiyo adasankhidwa kukhala tchalamasi wa mayiko osauka. Eni wake fetu ndiye tikamayenda thobodo ngati zenizeni ndithu kunyadira ulidala pakati pa mbunde komweko. Umphawi wathu ngosatchuka, ngosabeba ulibe mbiri yochititsa chidwi, ulibe zipilala zachikumbukiro. Taonani ndi chifukwa chake sutibweretsera ndalama zolongosoka tikapempha. Kumayiko ndi mabungwe olemera, awo amankana agawa kandalama kakunsonga pofuna kukwecha zikumbumtima zawo zidathimbirira ndi nkhanza adachitira Afirika pomubera anthu ndi chuma chake. Nthawi zina koma katswiri wokonza ndondomeko za chuma cha dziko lapansi adadodoma kuti bwanji sindilidziwa dziko ili chikhalireni la umphawi wadzaoneni chotere. Nafunsa awo tidawatuma kuti akatipemphetsere ndalama. Kodi umphawi umenewu kapena munakumana ndi chivomerezi cholapitsa? hayi komabe kachindindindi pa 1989 ndi pa 2017 kadangalula. Kwanuko kodi kwakhala nkhondo yapachiweniweni kwa nthawi yayitali kapena? Ayiso, koma tinawandikana ndi Mozambique. Komanso pa 1993 paja asilikali athu adamenyana ndi akayombe. Zidalirako ndithu mfuti mkawalemu. Ayi, mwinatu munakumana ndi ngozi ya madzi osefukira, theka la dziko lidakhudzidwa. Dziko lonse? Ayi, kuna masiku abwino. Koma kunchaloku ndi chaka. Tsokoma kumene konse nkumene kumalimidwa suga omwe sa dziko lonse. Imfa chake amene wammavuto ndithu. Mwati kwanuko sikunachitike chilala chogonera zaka ndi zaka, chifukwa tikaona apa chiwerengero chanu cha ana onyenchera nchokwera kwa basi. Pa 2001 inaswadi ng'amba mpaka natu mathero ake tinataya oyimba matafale. Ndekatswiri wokonza ndondomeko za chuma cha dziko lapansiyu posamvetsetsa kuti dziko la mtendere chiyambire, lochucha madzi, chinyanja chake chosaphwa kunsanaku ndi mitsinje, nthaka yachonde zambiri, likhaliranji mu mphawi mpaka nakutsanukira kuzikhadaba. Amangoti khalani kaya apa kaya Malawi, tithandize umphawi wodziwika, umphawi wobeba, umphawi wokongola. Sudan, Congo, Mozambique, Burundi, folani apa. Buku ili walemba ndi Campbell, osati Campbell, Campbell wa ku Mangalande kumene amakhalako. Wakolokota izi ndi nsena wathu apa chikwawa apa. Mmene mutu wayalusa zotsamwitsa zimene zikulepheresa mayiko a chigawo chakumwera kwa Afrika kuno SADC kulunzana ndi kutukukira limodzi ngati nkhuto wa pasadaka. Watikumbiramonso mtera othandizira ku mayiko amenewa kuti zawo ziyambe kusuntha ndi mgugu. Ulamuliro wabwino, kuchepetsa katangale, kulimbikitsa malonda pa chiweniweni cha mayiko amenewa, ndiye ina mwa mitsitsa kuti tivumate monga katemera othetsera umphawi. Chaka chonchino wakwera pa mpando kutsogolera bungwe la mayiko amenewa a SADC. Zizakhala zomvetsa chisoni akupindula ku Sozibere, ku Kapata ndi ku Maungu, ku Mpanyira, ku Manzini ndi ku Bramfontein ndi mfundo zakutchumulidwa m'buku limeneli. Eni wakefa Malawi tili khudale kukanda pambali pa mimbapa kudikirira wina tonjole m'misampha ya umphawi. Ligudwe buku ili liwerengedwe m'malimana ndi m'madyombo, liphunzitsidwe m'masilabasi m'makholeji umu, alinyotsolerane akatswiri ozukuta mabuku m'makanema m'mawayilesi ndi m'masamba michozomo. Tigwiremo kanthu katithandize, tipezemo gawo lathu ngati Amalawi, kuti likamakafika kutaliko ife mfundo zake titazidziwa kale, likamakatumikira ena ife tikhale titapindula nalo. End of poem no 1. So going at a tangent, and when I was researching for the piece that I just performed, I was looking at Anarchy, survival of Anarchy, and how we had our own share of Anarchy in 2011. And I had written this one then to commemorate that kind of anarchy that we were passing through one of which was a shortage of fuel and allied problems. So this one is entitled The Poor Man's Story. So it's a piece of your history. The Poor Man's Story. The Poor Man's Story is a bestseller with no shortage of vendors and retailers, and doing better than NIV Bibles. Soon, it will overtake HIV titles. It is one peddled by chiefs on television. It is at the parliament floors on auction. 1 million kwachas being demanded as basic asking price by those shoemakers of our laws. MRA has made 4 translations already. They are calling them VAT, sour tax, duty, PAYE, pray as you end. Mera doesn't want it plagiarized in a licensed Zugubu. Makra will access it via a spy machine. The Poor Man's Story is etched onto the new license plate. It is the new passport with unforgeable features. Stare closely, you will see it as a watermark on the luxuriant sun of our new flag. The Poor Man's Story is the Nsanje port, mixed with a badge of urea bags. It is the Karonga Chitipa Road. It is the Green Belt Initiative that will arrest the various hangers of our loins like the real belt it bespeaks. The Poor Man's Story is the language of Antonio Mota and his Mota angel, those angels of construction, divinely appointed to build every one of our concrete jungles, while our engineers host the jingle of the need for some tendering jingoism. The Poor Man's Story is the photogenic but unphotographable castle somewhere in Tiolo, the commercialization of Air Malawi, the mullification of ADMAC, and the nullification of tobacco's relevance. It is the half-puff activity of hastily selling uranium, so we forever rid our country of caustic radioactive elements. Tango eregeza kukua kuwazaka eregera. It is the niobium of Kanyika, it is the bauxite at Migowi, the rare earth metals we don't need, Tudo. It is the suspicions of petroleum in the lake, the fuel shortage facility. Excuse me, I meant the fuel storage facility. The Poor Man's Story is the 16 million liters already purchased, but eternally stuck somewhere between Nayuchi and Nakala. It is the 16 days of activism, helping nothing but monetary chauvinism of these new gullible organisms, NGOs. It is the Chirimba Limbi Midbus Fair, indeed Baliba Alimbe. It is the 300 kwaja paid for spores of mood, looking same like sesame seeds on a loaf of sterile bread. The Poor Man's Story is the 7% excrement, oops, increment thrown at civil slave salaries, another oops. It is the 8th billionth baby making our unaffected recreational procreations the only industry that can survive our recession. It is the man-made lakes the Reserve Bank is digging with those sachets of forex. A well-swam swarm of our governors understands better how the kwacha floats. The Poor Man's Story is the Malawi housing waiting list for Nkolokosa bedsitter, with sewage coming through the kitchen sink and piped water muddier than a puddle of rain. Flip. It is the story of sunside villas disposed with the callousness of a plastic diaper full of its ishe contents. The Poor Man's Story is the scramble, perhaps a fierce game of Scrabble for public power and posterity, played between Undule and Andale. It is the fight for human rights, but never fight for the human right. The Poor Man's Story, as retold by Cameron or as retorted in Tabas canon, is or is not a story of no gain, no pay. It is the extended credit facility. It is the thicket of policies our thick politicians must obey. It is the Millennium Challenge account, the Millennium Development Goals, sipping our independent goals under our own gaze. The Poor Man's Story starts with go to hell. Villagers don't need fuel. It climaxes at, you say there's no fuel. Go lie on the road, my friend. Let's see if a car wants to hit you in 5 minutes. But the Poor Man's Story hardly ends, for it suffers the chokehold of definitions. Basics or necessities, we are told. Basic necessities was taken apart in the flurry of zeros of that experimental budget framework. The poor man's story is a living rumor and with minimal humor from the death mongers on social media who say our president might have lost it somewhere in Australasia. But the poor man's story is a working holiday for sick men don't go shopping. This was 2011. The judgment is yours if the poor man's story has changed. Thank you so much.
Wow, what a history we have. The poor man's story, and other poems, I would call it. Distinguished guests, our guest of honor, tonight we are privileged in this house to have a pool of talent. We have seasoned writers, authors in this house, and we have poets, just as we have seen, and all other talents, we can name them. And at this point, I would like to recognize one great seasoned writer who, in my opinion, is multi-talented because apart from being an author, he has several other talents. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me at this point to invite Dr. Ken Lipenga to make a word. He is our guest speaker tonight, and well, let me not say much. Dr. Ken Lipenga, please.
Before I proceed, can you join me in giving another round of applause for the poet, please? That was absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Madam Speaker, it's great to see you. It's been a while, and I'm proud to be in your company today. Honorable Minister, it's nice meeting you. It's good to see you. I believe the Honorable Attorney General is here too. Oh, we haven't met before, so I'm honored to meet you, sir. Thank you very much for coming. Wilson Campbell, ladies and gentlemen, what am I doing here today? Why am I standing in front of you at the launch of a book by Wilson Campbell? Some of you may not realize that Wilson Campbell and I met for the first time today. We met for the very first time today. And since he's such a likable fellow, I have no doubt that he has thousands of friends, both here in Malawi and abroad where he lives. So he could easily have found somebody better qualified and closer to him to review his book and perform the role that has been assigned today. But somehow, he chose me. Can there be a greater honor? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Respect, as they say. Respect. When you look at the book, you see paper pages that have been bound together. But it's actually much more than that. It is the package of passion wrapped together with ideas. This is what you notice when you read Wilson's writings, whether it's in the book or in social media. Passion, self-belief, conviction. This man has a tangible, passionate interest in the idea that he's discussing. And you don't have to agree with him to detect that passion. When I first met him on Facebook, I noticed one thing immediately, that he was always under attack. But I admired the way he defended his ideas, even when I didn't agree with him. And there are times when I didn't agree with him. And the first thing that came to my mind was, my God, this guy has guts. Wilson has guts. And it's always evident in his writings. Guts is what it has taken to produce this book. Guts, self-belief, and full immersion in the critical tradition. Yes, the critical tradition. The critical tradition has not generally been part of our culture, if we are to be honest. The Malawian child has generally been raised, brought up on a menu of politeness, acceptance of the established order, respect for the elders. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, it is what makes us what we are. It's what gives us identity. But these values become an intellectually lethal opium, a creative killing concoction, when they are offered at the expense of assertiveness and critical thinking. Most people will agree that the Malawi of today is not the same Malawi of yesterday. You hear the Malawi of today on the streets of our cities. You hear the Malawi of today in the market squares of the countryside. You hear the new Malawi on social media and in the verses of a new generation of poets, such as poet Ntiwatwa that we have seen here. You hear the new Malawi in the order-defying lyrics of our young musicians. And then you hear the new Malawi in the voice of a London-based Malawian who confidently raises his hand and pronounces that something is wrong with Stadik. Well, now, that's guts. That's audacity. That's nerve. But he goes further. He climbs the highest mountain and says, Stadik can be fixed. Let's go back to the design board, he says. Change one or two fundamentals, and this vehicle called Stadik will be fit for purpose. That's nerve. Not too long ago, that would have been considered subversive, and he would have been considered a rebel, and the Right Honorable Speaker would not be sitting next to him. Today, we hear a song that has become very famous, and that is Line. Line, Mwana Wanzeru. Line is being praised for cleaning the house and things like that. But the new Line today, of 2021, is challenging the establishment. That's the new Line. Now, according to the school of realism, on which Wilson anchors his writing, anarchy prevails in the relations between states. And international law is in fact helpless to impose any direct constraints on the behavior of states, partly because there is almost no way of enforcing it. There is the way, I think, if you think about it, of actually extrapolating that and also reading it into the context of the nation states. And saying there are times when you say, well, we are accountable to that one, but who is that one accountable to? The rules and institutions may be in place, but there is no overarching superstate to enforce adherence to those rules. The resulting environment is that of anarchy, and this in turn requires that the primary goals of individual states be their own survival and security. In short, when it comes to upholding the principles embodied by institutions or protecting parochial and selfish political ends, the parochial ends prevail over the institutional requirements. Now, although Campbell uses realism, which is really a very pessimistic kind of outlook, he himself actually appears to fall squarely in the school of the neoliberal. He thinks it is possible to escape from the anarchy. He does not subscribe to the dark view of the realist that say, well, it's all chaos out there, it's all anarchy. He believes that it is possible to escape anarchy through the use of what he likes to call, and he uses this phrase very, very frequently, almost too often, more robust institutional mechanisms. I don't know how many times he has used that in the book. That, ladies and gentlemen, is my summary of the book. Because you see, you're going to have to read it. So tonight, it is not my intention to bore you with the contents of the book. We have now come to the point where I get to tell you whether I think you should buy the book or not. Now, the duty of a reviewer is very different from that of a marketing manager. Reviewing a book is not a marketing exercise. But should Wilson, who is my friend, wish me to be his marketing manager and offer a reasonable financial offer in these very difficult times, who am I to say no? I think that there will still be a problem, though. The only problem that would arise is the fact that Wilson himself has proved to be a brilliant marketing manager for his book. Even before it came out, even the day he started writing it, we all wanted to buy it. The man is so good at marketing. Congratulations. And that is why even if he offered me the job of marketing manager, I would have to decline it, because there's no way I could beat his talent. But as a reviewer, I can say certain things that he cannot say. Wilson Campbell's book, Surviving Anarchy, is a well-researched and well-written book with well-argued thesis. It is not easy to present. See, books come in various forms. Surviving Anarchy is an argument. Now, it is not easy to sustain consistently and coherently an argument for 800 pages. But Wilson Campbell accomplishes this feat with remarkable ease. The author has presented a convincing account of his case. He has, in my opinion, contributed to knowledge and the development of ideas. Madam Speaker, part of the reason why I'm so delighted that you are here is because it gives me the opportunity to say, if African politicians, including my good friends in the House, which you preside over on both sides, if they are going to read one more book this year, apart from the Holy Bible and the Quran, then let that book be Wilson Campbell's Surviving Anarchy. Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, I'm now going to ask some friends to help me perform a little ritual to mark the launching of this book. Wow, this is pretty heavy stuff. Yeah? Uh-huh. What would you want to invite? The Deputy Minister? I'm sure the Deputy Minister would be delighted to stand next to me. For me, it will be an honor. Now, we'll start with this first. About this classical case of Kalula Nadumancho. Now it's starting the Deputy Minister before they sit.
But I don't take up also in case
No,
my change of
pour it in there. We're just pouring it. Yes. Okay. Good. are going to have to help me. Oh, yeah. He's this volunteer. And, oh, yeah, you can do that, can't you? Do this. Who presents this book? May it be read by millions and millions of Africans. And may it make a difference in the lives. Here I have the contents. I have the contents of Wilson Campbell's book, Surviving Anarchy. I am now going to pour a glass. And I'll pour another one. And I'll pour another one. I'll offer an opinion. Perhaps. No, it is not sinful, please. It is not sinful to stand next to somebody who is drinking. But I have to give you an opinion, right? This is not alcohol. It is the contents of surviving. Profoundly deep. Profoundly deep. But that's just one person's opinion. I'll now invite our guest of honor to come and partake from a glass. And when she has the opportunity to speak to us at the end of the ceremony, I'm sure she will also offer her opinion. Right Honorable Speaker, it is my honor to offer you the contents of Wilson book. Thank you, you can take it. And the Honorable Attorney General, sir, if you could please join us. Honorable sir, we know you're extremely busy these days, but it's my honor to offer you a sample of the contents of Wilson Campbell's book, Surviving Anarchy. Please partake of this. He's the lawyer, remember, they like to reserve their opinions. They like to reserve their opinions.
I would like to exercise my right to remain silent.
Ah, beautiful. Yes, the good Attorney General has exercised his right to remain silent. And now it is the time for me to invite my good friend, the Deputy Minister, Minister Vera, to come. And we'll use water somewhere. Can somebody get us water? Oh, yes. Yes. And then we'll symbolically pour a little something there. Okay. We'll put just a little bit there. Yes.
Too deep.
Too deep. I'm glad he has taken on a less formal environment because we're supposed to be having fun here. There's a gentleman here who I used to work with in Parliament. We were both members of Parliament. And we were the greatest of friends except when I made certain claims about rice. I always stood up in Parliament and said that the rice from Chiringa, my part of Palombe, is the best tasting in the world. And every time I said that, the Honorable Frank Mwenefumbo wanted to shoot me with a big because he believes that the rice from Karonga is better than the rice from Palombe. The debate is still on. we haven't really come to a conclusion on that. But now, I am going to ask him to come forward and partake of the contents of Wilson Campbell's book and give us an opinion. Tell them. Yes, indeed. Yes. One thing I highlighted in my review was that Wilson Campbell sometimes sounds like an impatient general urging his soldiers to victory. Maybe there's something that happens to people when they get military training, because every time Wilson Campbell sounds like a man of action. He wants things to be done now. So in honor of his military background, may I please invite the commandant of the Military Training College, who I believe is here, to be my honor to meet him for the first time, to come and join us. I think for you, Commandant, I'll give you the honor of sharing from the same calabash with me. Yes, of course. That's the whole idea.
All right, thank you very much. Our guest of honor, Right Honorable Speaker, and all protocols observed. I would like to say one thing about Wilson Campbell. When he joined the military, I happened to be his training officer. And when he was writing a book, he told me he's looking for somebody to review his book. And he asked me for ideas. I said, no, I'm not at that level. But I think whatever I learned from the military, particularly MAFCO, that time I was in charge of what we call service writing in the military. So basically what I was doing is to teach him how to write. Surprisingly, I've never written a book, but he has written a book. And every time when I give them an assignment, he never passed. But when I read his book, after the Honorable Dr. Ken Lipenga had reviewed it, he said, wow, this is a masterpiece of work. So as somebody who is heading Command and Staff College in Malawi Defense Force, and also the courses that we're offering at that institution, I said, I think this book can be one of the reference materials to be used by our students. And I did not hesitate to convince the MDF leadership to make sure that we have the copies of this book in our library. And I told him when he was leaving UK, I think that was 2 days ago, right? That I'm buying 20 copies. So I'm happy for him, and this is my plea to all of you that if you've got some youthful guys who are intelligent, let them join the army. We are living at the period, or let them join the Defense Force. We are living at the period whereby, up to this moment, people still think that military is for brutes, but it's not that the case. His book is going to help us quite a lot. It has set the context under which all our strategies have the basis of the external and internal context when we are preparing for our strategies, which we lacked. Because most of the things that we've been using, or most of the knowledge that we've been using, is imported. But we have our own knowledge, book, or authority by Mr. Wilson Campbell. So to that, I accept to drink from the knowledge or from the pot of knowledge by Mr. Wilson Campbell. Thank you. Well, just like Honorable Attorney General said, he deserves the right to remain silent. I also deserve the right to remain silent.
Well, now you want me to swear. Please. Allow me, not about to bring protocols. We just want to be informal. Please do take and give us an opinion. More perhaps? It's an honor to meet you. And I would like to hear your opinion on what you're trying to say is not alcohol, I can assure you. The contents.
I'll say a little bit more during Q&A.
During Q&A, okay. He was the former Attorney General will say more during question and answer time. Yes, so thank you very much, and thank you also for giving me for being a little bit out of for being a little bit anarchic in theme with the book. Thank you, God bless.
Another big round of applause for Dr. Ken Lipenga. I've heard some calls for the MC to also partake, but the challenge is now if I do that, I will start speaking Greek in this house. Madam Speaker, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to keep up with the time, I would like to invite now the author of the book to make a statement. We are going to have a time for question and answers, as Dr. Sulungwe had mentioned, that he will say more during Q&A. We indeed are going to have a time for questions and answers, but that's going to be after the guest of honor has made her statement. But at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Wilson Campbell, the author of this great book, Surviving Anarchy, to make a statement, after which we are going to hear from the guest of honor. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Campbell.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor to see all you guys here. I thought I should write a speech, but I was so passionate about this book, so I think I didn't need a speech because everything in the book is coming from deep down my heart. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for coming with us. Although it was at short notice, you managed to attend. Despite all your meetings you had, you still gave us some time to be with us. So I'm really honored to have you here. Thank you so much. Honorable Minister, she happens to be my colleague at University of Malawi, so it was easy to, yeah, she was one of the, I expected her to be here, being a friend, a personal friend, and one of the first people I consulted when I started writing the book. So thank you so much for coming. There are a lot of great people here. The Attorney General, Thabo Chakaka. He also happens to be a personal friend of mine, and he was in Blantyre. He was supposed to stay overnight, but he made sure that he drove back in time and is here with us. So I'm honored to have you here. I can see the Director of National Intelligence, Dr. Ningwira. Thank you, sir, for coming. And thank you, I really appreciate it. I'm humbled. Actually, I'm speechless to see all the great faces here. Mr. Frank Tumpale Mwenefumbo, he had to drive all the way from Karonga to come here. So I'm honored, sir. Thank you so much for coming. Ms. Habiba Osman, the Secretary for Malawi Human Rights Commission. Thank you so much. We've engaged a few times in the past on issues, but to have you here, I'm honored. Thank you. I can see the former Attorney General. Sir, I'm honored for all the assistance you gave me throughout the process, and we are here at Ufulu Gardens because it was his idea that we should hold the event here. So I thank you so much. To my new friend, Honorable Ken Lipenga, what a man, what an icon. I approached him about 6 months ago. I told him that I had written a book and I wanted someone from outside the field, my field, just to appreciate what I'd written. And I ended up getting more than what I'd bargained for. The feedback he gave me, the encouragement he gave me, and he made me believe that actually I was doing the right thing. And thank you for the inspiration. And I'm so grateful that you're here. As you said, to get you back in the suit, yeah, I think that's one of my biggest achievements. So thank you so much for coming. I can see Mr. Ben Wanda there, Jam Kaunda, Moses Ntagomwa, Trevor Chikankeni, Sungemi Pangro, Kaikango Malange, my sister there, Mr. Mungoni, everybody. I see family. I can mention each one of you guys by name because everyone who is here is part of the family. And I'm so grateful to the team that despite the fact that I was in England, I only arrived yesterday in the afternoon, but they've set the ball rolling, and it was so easy for me just to come and finish everything up. So I'm so grateful to Dennis, Liz, and the rest of the team. I could not have done this without you guys. Thank you so much. Mr. Michael Antoine, thank you, sir, for coming. And everyone, thank you. I'm honored to have you here, and I'm speechless. Thank you. I'm go smart, so thank you so much. So talking about the book, Surviving Anarchy. Oh, Honorable Noel sorry, you're hiding there. I didn't recognize. Thank you so much for coming. So talking about Surviving Anarchy, I'm a person who believes that states have to come together to survive the hardships. Yeah, sorry about that. Yep. I'm so passionate about the interdependence of states that no state can survive on its own. The borders that were created back in the past by the colonialists, most especially for Southern Africa, have become a burden for transformation of the region. So for me, I believe that through regional integration, as we have our president as the SADC chair, through regional integration, this region can progress. But it has to be real regional integration, not just integration on paper, which we have at the moment as SADC. SADC, if you look at the SADC Treaty, it's a very brilliant document with a lot of brilliant mechanisms that are there that could easily transform the region and lead us to progress. Unfortunately, those ideas have only remained on paper because in practice, SADC has always done the opposite. And then this book asks the question, is SADC there for the people or the political elite? So it's a book that challenges the status quo and tries to provide solutions as to how we can overcome some of the challenges that we have right now in the region, not just Malawi. I'm talking about the whole Southern African region and possibly move across Africa. Because if you look at Africa, in 1975, Africa had 7% of the global share of world trade. Asia also had 7%. Now Africa only has 2% of the global share, while Asia has got 35% of the global share of world trade. So you ask yourself, why are we keep going backwards while other people are moving forward? So this book provides some of the solutions that we can adopt, and we really have to mean it, not just by just the ideas, leaving them on the paper, but actually living what we are trying to achieve. So I hope all you guys are going to enjoy the read. It's a very informative book that goes back to history as to how the relations between countries in the region started from independence, while the liberation movements were coming in and other African governments were already in place. So it takes a lot of, you learn a lot about, if you love history, you're going to love this book. If you love international trade, infrastructure, regional infrastructure development, and all other aspects of integration, I think this is the book for you, and I think you'll enjoy the read. So thank you so much for coming. I could not find better words to say today, apart from saying thank you, everyone, each one of you who are here, and to give me support on this occasion. The book will come out before the end of the year. So thanks for everyone who managed to help me throughout. Captain Mijiga, that's another quiet guy that we worked with throughout. I have Tiwonge Msisha, another brilliant guy I worked with throughout the process. And unfortunately, Brigadier Kuali is not here. He wrote the foreword for the book, and he helped me throughout as well. So there are a lot of people I can mention that I had to work throughout. So if I've forgotten about you, it's not because I'm ignoring you, but because everyone played a part in making me achieve my dream. And I hope you're going to enjoy the read. And thank you so much for coming. And we can proceed with the whole process. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Another big round of applause for the author of the book. If we want to tap from this great pool of knowledge, please kindly note that we have a selling point right outside. And the hardcover book is going at 35,000 kwacha, and the softcover one is going at 25,000 kwacha. You'll find people to assist you there at the selling point. If you are driving vehicle number BS810, may you please kindly go and turn off the lights of your vehicle. BS810. Thank you very much. Right Honorable Speaker, at this point, without taking much of the time, I would like to invite you to address us this evening, after which we are going to have a Q&A session. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament.
The Deputy Minister of Labor, Madam Vera Kantukuli, present here. The Attorney General present here. The Director of National Intelligence Bureau present here. Madam Habiba Osman, Honorable Tumpali Mwenfumbo and Madam Mwenfumbo, the former Attorney General, my very old colleague who has always been there for me, taught me politics, and I'm here partly because of what he did. Honorable Ken Lipenga here. And Wilson, my young brother. I have known Wilson from the time he was 5, 6, 7 years old. And today, actually, he's taller than me, and I'm thinking life is not fair. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, when Wilson came up here, I was feeling a bit emotional because I was thinking of the time, and then I looked at his title, Surviving Anarchy. I know it's in the context of the SADC, but I actually looked at him, looked at his past, and that made me almost shed a tear. I'm not here to depress everybody, because we're not here to get depressed, but to celebrate. But I think I cannot go home without saying this. Wilson and the sister is there, Comfort, who was my age mate. These two have survived hard life. They lost their parents when they were very, very, very young. I had lost my mother, but I had my father. And at that time, when I saw Wilson and Comfort and their sister, I used to say, I wish I was like Comfort. She has her mother and her dad. But within a very shortest period of time, they lost both the dad and the mother, and the sister, because there were 3. Within a space of 2 months, it was a very short period. And in myself, I said, I don't know how I could survive if I lost both parents, with nobody to look after them, nobody to pay for their school fees. But believe you me, when it says surviving anarchy, Comfort and Wilson survived. And when he called me to say he's coming to launch this book, I said, come what may, I have to be there. Because at that time, I'm sure everybody condemned. I said, there's no way they're going to do anything in life. But believe you me, I think if you have that self-determination, if you still live by your goal, you don't let these problems that we have to hinder your progress. That's how today we are finding ourselves here. So I would like to say thanks to the Almighty, and thank you, Comfort, for being there for your brother. And thank you, Wilson. I know there's so many people in our lives today who have actually lost track of their lives because they say, I'm in trouble, I don't have parents, I have too many problems. Some have actually gone into committing suicide because of the problems. They never did that. They saw that as part of life and forged ahead, and look at them now. I'm so proud of you, Wilson. And it is my prayer and hope that wherever your parents are, they should be smiling, looking at what you've achieved so far, together with your sister. Honorable members, sorry, I will keep on saying honorable members and colleagues in the House. It's Parliament now. It's just that I don't have my gavel because I could have said order, order in the House. If you look at what is contained in the book, it is actually a message to all of us. Obviously, this message first goes to us as people who hold offices and politicians, but I think it's about time that every individual in this country starts looking at ourselves and say, what is it that I've done wrong, and what is it that I've done? Ourselves these questions. This anarchy that is being talked about is not going to go away. And indeed, these regional integrations we talk about, we spend so much money. But then I think the questions are, if we look at the benefits of it, as we're talking, SADC actually started here in Malawi. That's where it was born. But up to now, what is it that we can show that because of this regional integration, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are the tough questions that I think as a country we need to be asking ourselves, and as a region we need to be asking ourselves. And I would like to say that I'm going to be one, indeed, advocate, because as Parliament, we are a member of SADC as members of Parliament. And this year, we are going to be having SADC Parliament, meaning every country in the SADC will be contributing 5 members of Parliament into this SADC Parliament. So we'll have members to represent Malawi in that particular Parliament, which is going to be a regional Parliament. But the questions that we need to be asking ourselves, apart from us just having the Parliament, what is it that we're doing for our country? How is Malawi going to benefit? I think those are the tough questions that we need. And definitely, we need to read the book as Parliament, and I'm sure the chairperson of SADC, I'm going to buy a book for him so that he should also read and see what is in there. Because you are raising issues that need urgent attention. We've been talking and talking, but obviously, I think action is needed. And it has shown that in this country, we do have a lot of talent. In this country, we do have people who can analyze situations. But there were times writing a book, you are talking of somebody coming from the US, somebody coming from wherever. It was like, very few people. And indeed, that time, the only person maybe we could think of was Dr. Ken Lipenga. I would like to say thank you for coming, because you're encouraging the young ones. You could have said, no, I've gone past that. But as you've said, you drove all the way from Blantyre. I would like to say thank you. That's a way of leaving legacy. It's not about yourself. It's about what you leave to others. So thank you very much, Dr. Ken Lipenga. I'm sure you've made Wilson, the way you have analyzed his book, it's going to encourage even others to do it. And I'm actually thinking, I also need to write, even if it means 2 pages only. And indeed, nowadays, life is easy. I mean, as politicians, we can get PhDs in 3-4 days. I'm sure I can also do it very quickly. So, I'm reflecting on somebody. But remember, the speaker, fortunately, the speaker's got so much powers. Whatever I say, nobody is allowed to question. So I'm actually thinking of 2 things. Getting a PhD so I can be like Dr. Ken Lipenga, and indeed to write a book. But then you're thinking 5 years, 7 years to do a PhD. I'm sure there are shorter ways of getting it. But all in all I wanted to say is that I'm so happy for Wilson, and I also wanted, on behalf of Wilson, to thank you all. I've seen so many faces here just showing the support, and it shows how you have been relating to your friends. Although you are outside this country, you still have maintained relationship. Because there are times people in diaspora, sometimes you feel, and therefore you completely ignore and forget about us. But this shows that you have not forgotten us. You know that we are here, we exist, and we're so proud of you. And the marketing manager already said that he's going to market the book. I wanted to say that I am going to buy, in my personal capacity, 10 copies for Parliamentary Library. Because if I make an announcement that Parliament is buying, the Attorney General would actually going to bring in Public Finance Management Act and say, how can you procure something without following the procedures? So I shall not attempt to do that, because I don't want tomorrow to be found in court because I've not followed procedures. But I'll buy in my own personal capacity, Attorney General. But all in all, thank you very much for inviting me to be a guest of honor for this function. And thank you all for coming. And thank you, Comfort, once again, for being there for your brother. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. You get that PhD in the next 3-4 months. We will gladly and proudly put up a very big billboard with right at the entrance of Parliament. Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we would have a question and answer session, but because of time, we will only take 2 questions. Please make them brief so that we keep up with the time. Let me invite the author of the book, Wilson Campbell, to come and take the questions. If you want to ask a question, please just raise your hand and he is going to recognize you and the microphone is going to come your way. Thank you very much. Wilson, please.
Hello, everybody. I'll take the first question from the former Attorney General, Dr. Chikosa Silungwe. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a question as such, but maybe comments. First, to also say, I first have met Wilson in person yesterday. But I think I was that willing to help because Comfort, your sister, is my year mate, and I recognize Comfort from the neighborhood we lived much more than you. So virtually you were my younger brother. Okay. And Congressional National Archives law, you will be required to lodge a copy of the book, you being a Malawian author. And I make the comment for other Malawian authors as well. It's December, the National Archives is expecting all authors to lodge books they've published, so let's help that institution. Second comment I would like to make is I have my suspicion, I haven't read the book, but listening to the review and your own comments, I have my suspicion that you are still locating yourself in your argument in the new International Economic Order school. If that is the case, then I would urge the other intelligent would-be PhD students and authors to perhaps launch themselves off your book to critique that position in a SADC context. There are other critiques of a new international economic order for other global spaces. But since Wilson has taken us to SADC, then that's an opportunity to critique the NIEO proper channels of acquiring knowledge. To also then say, finally, which I suspect may not be in the book, but if it is, you can still comment on it, that it is a fast-moving train. 5 years ago, we were talking of, digitization as the way forward. I know the summit some 2 months ago was located in digitization, but I think as scholars, we actually must very quickly move to artificial intelligence as a space.
Just to respond, you talked about digitalization. Actually, there's a section in the book where I'm covering ICT investment in the region, because at the moment, 15% of the global economy is based on ICT. So if we're not investing in ICT, then obviously we'll be lagging behind all the other countries that are moving forward. So yes, I've addressed that in the book. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Brigadier General Luke Mwetsen Yetala. I'm the Commandant for Malawi Defense Force Command and Staff College. Some of you might not be able to know what Malawi Command and Staff College is. It's a new college that the government has introduced. We are only 2 years old, and I think even the Right Honorable Speaker doesn't know where it is. So I would want to take this opportunity that maybe after the launch of this book, you should take an opportunity to come and visit us. And there are quite a number of very important personnel here who would want to come and lecture to our officers there. But coming to what has brought us today, surviving the anarchy, I will not repeat what others have said, but maybe my question is pointing towards the strategies that you, Mr. Wilson Campbell, has made. I think your book gives us a preponderance on where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going. In as far as international relations are concerned, security, and even strategies that we make to be in consonant with what others are doing. And indeed, if we are aspiring to achieve what has been written in the Vision 2063, we've had books that we have been using in our schools that are not homegrown, but I think your book gives us a synopsis of what happens in the SADC region, and probably through that understanding, we'll be able to come up with solutions to solve some of the problems. My question to you is that within your team and your marketing strategies, what measures have you put in place? And again, that question should also go to other relevant authorities who make decisions for this country to survive or to be in sync with what other countries are doing, to ensure that what is being taught in institutions of learning, we are introducing books like yours that are homemade or bred. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have Mr. Jamkaunda.
My brother, welcome back home, and glad to be here. I think it's something I've been looking forward to. We've discussed this a few times in passing. Just a quick question from me is, in your view, not having read the book, what would you think would be, I don't know if it's been covered in the book, would be the quick steps or the low-hanging fruit for Africa to realize what has been possibly, as we've been mentioned, SADC has been around for quite some time, but we don't seem to have actually lived up to what's on paper. What do you think would be the low-hanging fruit that the SADC region could start off with and incrementally realize the actual vision that we would like to see?
Actually, the book is SADC. If you look at the SADC treaty, it's supposed to be a supranational body, but the way it operates is more like an intergovernmental institution. So the book is actually encouraging that SADC should go back to basics and transform into a supranational body where every state, just like the way the European Union operates, whereby the European Union is an overarching authority of all the governments, which actually helps all the countries to adhere to the treaty and as well as all the agreements that they have in place. So if we could have that for SADC as well, I think that will be a good starting point, because we have all the ideas, but unfortunately each country is allowed to do whatever they want to do. And that means you cannot actually integrate that way if you are doing different things while you're saying you're integrating. While, like for instance, we're supposed to have free movement, but now you see the South African government is imposing visas for Malawians going to South Africa. So it's just those issues that we have the ideas, but we don't leave those ideas into practice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, are you asking for? Okay. The first, you asked about what strategies. So yes, one of the strategies is about all countries adhering to the SADC treaty and the agreements that are in place. If we start from there, then every government will be held accountable by the regional body, because we cannot integrate if we are not united. So we have to start from there, as well as governance. Most of the SADC countries have got governance problems, and SADC is supposed to be promoting good governance. But we see that every time there's a rigged election in Zimbabwe, SADC goes out there and say, oh, the elections were free and fair. We have to wait for the African Union to say, no, the elections were not free and fair. Let's have a power sharing agreement. But all the time SADC stands for, yeah. So does SADC actually represent the people or represent the political elite? That's one other question that the book is asking. So, yeah, that's some of the things that we have to overcome as a region.
Yeah, we can take one more.
Yeah, I feel like there wasn't any female voice that asked a question. So I just have to do it for the solidarity. And mine is so simple. I just wanted to find out what inspired you to call it Surviving Anarchy, the title.
All right. As a student of international relations, yes. In international relations, as Honorable Lipenga said, there is one of the major theories in international relations is realism. And realism lives on the assumption that the international system is anarchical in nature. So states have to, they are on their own, they have to survive that anarchy. So one way of overcoming that burden is states do come together, most especially the weaker ones. For instance, I give an example. Poland on its own is not a powerful country, but Poland as part of the European Union is a very powerful country. And the European Union represents all those countries, and Poland has got a voice, and the European Union is at par with the United Nations when it comes to setting the agenda of the international system. So SADC region is one of the richest regions in the world. We have resources that can never be found in any other country, apart from, like, for instance, in the DRC, which is part of SADC. They have got coltan, they've got cobalt. These are minerals that are used for all the electronic gadgets that we're using today. China cannot go ahead with their technological inventions without the cobalt or the coltan from the DRC. But DRC is one of the poorest countries in the world. Why? Because we are not united, we become vulnerable. When we become vulnerable, they divide and conquer, and they try to manipulate people to keep fighting so that they can get cotton for cheap. So how can we overcome that? SADC, DRC cannot be on their own. They have to be part of SADC, and SADC has to represent all the countries. They have to come together, work together to overcome the challenges. That's to overcome the anarchical international system. So basically that's what the whole title is all about.
Thank you very much. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we end our Q&A. I know there were a few more hands, but with the time, I may not be able to take some more questions. We are going to have a time of networking outside, so we can utilize that time to ask all the remaining questions that we have not been able to ask. You may please proceed and take your seat. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, after this, we are going to have a time to interact outside. And like I said, we have a selling point for these books. So you can visit the shelf, and we have people there who are going to assist you on how you can get the book. Once you get the book, please meet Wilson. He's going to be there to sign your book if you want it to be signed. Now, this beautiful piece of work here is the cover for this beautiful book, Surviving Anarchy. If you hang this in your house, in your office, it will actually remind you and encourage you to read from this pool of knowledge. So, we would have loved to have every one of us get a copy of this, but because we only have one, I am going to auction it. Who is ready to take it at 300,000 Malawi kwacha? Anyone? 300,000? Anyone? 300,000? Ladies, can I have someone to lift it up so that our friends at the back can see it? Because I know there are people who are contemplating on getting it at 300,000 or even more, but because they are not able to see it, my friends who are vertically challenged at the back, I don't want to mention names because I know if I begin to mention names, my friends like Wapona Kita will be on my neck when we go outside. Anyone? 300,000? 300,000? Oh, 300. We have 300,000. Anyone to beat that? 300,000 here. Anyone to beat that? Anyone to beat the 300,000? Going once? Going twice? Sold at 300,000 Malawi kwacha. Thank you very much. Please, you can hand it over. Oh yeah, let's have a let's have a photo. Hey, let's have a photo. Please come forward. Please come forward. It's yes, please. I'd have honorable speaker, please. You be the one handing it over. Thank you. One more. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You can now please come back, Madam. You need to take the cover with you. Yes. Thank you. Oh, okay. But I think they've taken enough pictures. Thank you very much. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Right, Honorable Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we wrap up our session tonight. But like I said, we are going to have a time for interaction outside. And those that wish to buy the book, please visit the selling point outside. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. You've been a very wonderful people. You've been a very beautiful people. May you have a safe travels back home. Thank you.